I'm here today with Valentina Tudose, an emotional patterns architect. And I wanted to ask her some questions about what that actually is and how that relates to mental health. Valentina, thanks for being here. So, an emotional patterns architect, what is that?
Being an emotional pattern architect means that I chose to switch my work from the conscious level, which relationship coaching was doing before. So, working with people on their conscious experiences, on conscious behaviors. For example, who do I choose? How do I choose to behave in a certain relationship? Why do certain stories keep repeating themselves in my life? So, these are patterns that people are aware of. But over the 12 years that I've been doing this work, and later when I became a clinical hypnotherapist, I recognized that there is a big difference between making conscious changes to our life and then also digging into what was the source of those behaviors. Why do we keep choosing the same kind of people? Why do we keep repeating the same self-sabotaging behaviors that end up in pain and sorrow? So the focus of my work is really on the inner architecture of relationships. So that's why I call myself an architect, because these emotional patterns are the stories that we tell ourselves early in childhood that then become so deep and so ingrained in the way that we see ourselves, in the way we define our identity as individuals, and then they have a habit of showing up in relationships. So essentially, it means that I've integrated all the conscious tools that I've learned during my time of helping people via relationship coaching with the subconscious tools of clinical hypnotherapy, neurolinguistic programming, somatic breath work, and so on. And for everything, I look for the source, the core program that prevents people from being happy in their relationships with others and with themselves.
So, that sounds a lot like traditional therapy, but it goes a little bit further, right? You mentioned a lot about relationship coaching and the way that people connect with themselves and connect with other people. What are some of the biggest challenges that people are facing today within their relationships, whether that be romantic, whether that be with work or with family or with friends? What are some of the trends that you're seeing right now?
So, my belief is that ultimately people do not really have relationship problems. What they actually have is a self worth deficit problem that is disguised or dressed up as a relationship problem. What this means is that, yes, in my work, I focus on the same things that traditional therapists or any other form of therapy tends to address, which is how do we actually feel inside? And
Okay.
because ultimately relationships are a mirror of ourselves, we attract the kind of people that reflect some of our own patterns, some of our own wounds. Obviously, romantic relationships in particular, but also professional relationships, familial relationships. We see those parts of ourselves that we have actually rejected. We see them projected in others. And everything really takes us back to the question, if this person doesn't choose me, if my mother doesn't love me, if my boss doesn't appreciate me, am I good enough? So the whole architecture of the self, of our sense of self, our identity, often is built on an original decision that we made at some point in our life, which could be, I'm not lovable, and therefore nobody's going to love me. And therefore, in every relationship that I have, I'm going to subconsciously try to prove that, which means I'm going to self sabotage. I'm going to be jealous. I'm going to be mistrusting. I'm always going to be checking everything just because deep down, I believe that I'm unlovable. And therefore, I cannot possibly believe and accept that someone actually does love me. So this is the core of the vast majority of the relationship problems that I see, which people usually describe as communication problems. It is not a communication problem.
That's really interesting. Talking about core beliefs, that's something in cognitive behavioral therapy as well. People have all these emotions, they have these feelings, they have these ideas, and that comes out sideways in different emotional regulation issues. But it all comes back to that core belief that I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, all these types of
I don't
things.
deserve this. I'm worthless, or everyone abandons me, everyone rejects me, which even when I say everyone rejects me or abandons me, it obviously is because I'm not good enough. I'm not deserving of love. I'm not deserving to be chosen. And people are not aware of this. Most people, when I put this postulate to them or this hypothesis, they go, I believe in myself. And I know this from my own personal experience
Yeah.
because I never thought that there was a part of me that didn't think she was good enough. There was.
Okay. So I know you work with men. I know you work with women. You also work with couples, lots of varieties of people. But I'm really curious, how does something like this manifest in men?
Especially in the last, let's say, 10 years, as I've started to integrate my work and to combine hypnotherapy and coaching, I've noticed a big gender-based difference. So the vast majority of the clients who come to me for relationship coaching are women, because at the core, women want connection, women want love, and therefore the female energy, let's say, or the female psyche is more directed, biologically speaking, and from a nervous system perspective, towards how can I connect better with my partner? How can I be in a relationship? And when I found someone, how can I maintain that relationship on a floating level? It may not be eternal happiness all the time, but at least a good relationship,
Consistency.
contentment and happiness. Men rarely reach out for that, because I think there is this fundamental difference between what is a core value for men and what is a core value for women. Men value respect more than they value love.
Interesting.
And respect is actually all about status, and it's all about how I feel about myself. It's about recognition, it's about how I position myself, how I show up in the world. So men actually tend to come to work with me more from the hypnotherapy perspective, as in the door that they're using to get into my system, so to speak, is through hypnotherapy, because they come and say, I can't speak up in front of my partner, for example. I find it difficult to express my opinions in front of her because I feel she might judge me, or she's harsh, or she likes to tell me what to do, or something like that. So it's most of the time about this idea that I don't know how to assert myself and how to show people that I am the guy that I want to be or I think I should be. So, as part of this paradigm where women seek love and men seek respect, actually, of course, everyone wants to be respected and to be loved at the same time. But I feel that men struggle even more with this idea of not measuring up to expectations. And we do know, and I'm not going to be dismissive of my own kind, that women tend to have a lot of expectations in relationships.
No, I've never come across that.
No, well, I would say that maybe they don't tell you that. But yes, the reality is that all those jokes that says, have you ever seen the female remote control and the male remote control? Well, it's like that, right? So men feel that I can never really give her everything that she desires. So there must be something wrong with me. So can you help me figure that out? Of course, deep down, nobody is really aware of the fact that they don't believe they are good enough, or very few people listen to that inner critic.
It's very hard to admit that, to actually go that deep on self-awareness, to see that and then be like, oh, I can see how this manifests in other parts of my life. I need to do something about it.
Well, that's what my book is all about.
Oh, there's a book.
Shameless plug.
Would you like to plug your book?
Well, these days, of course, everything is framed through my book, simply because it's really the core of all the problems that I see, right? Ultimately, I could be the most successful, the most professionally recognized person, male or female, in the world, and still come home and think I'm a piece of shit. Because at home, I am not maybe treated in the same way as I am at work. At work, I may be the boss lady, boss man, whoever. But at home, the dynamic often changes. And sometimes I am too much of the boss. I see this a lot with women who cannot relax into their feminine, cannot really be in this receiving, open, being loved frame of mind, because they are too used to being in charge, or they feel like, well, if I don't hold this together, it's going to fall apart. And nobody does anything around the house. And my husband is useless, or I cannot rely on him because he's always busy with his work. I'm quoting some clients now, but it's more as a generalized feel, right? That isn't true, but they do not see it sometimes because they are so caught up in this story that I have to hold it all together, that it all depends on me, and I have to make myself the most useful, the most productive, and I have to, basically, it's my job to do everything around the house.
Mhm.
And then they get full on into resentment, as it's natural.
That makes sense.
So it's maybe a twist on, let's say, traditional, it's definitely a twist on traditional relationship coaching or even the individual domain of clinical hypnotherapy. But the reason I combine these two and all the other things that I've learned in my life is because I could see that I cannot just deal with someone conscious story and say, you keep choosing this person or this type of person. Well, stop. Now that you are aware of this, just stop.
And is it just that easy?
No,
Didn't think
that's
so.
precisely the point. And I'm sure because
Mhm.
every single person who watches this and every single person who has been self aware for more than 5 minutes knows that, oh, I'm aware of this. I know that my parents have treated me like this. I even know
Mhm.
where it comes from. I know that I shouldn't be attaching very quickly to a person, or I know that I shouldn't be getting into anxious mode the moment someone doesn't text me for 5 minutes. Can I stop? It's
It's very
tough.
tough.
And the reason it's tough, it's because it's pointing to a core program that is inside our body.
The way I see that is that your brain has been going down the same pathways for so long to open up something brand new, even though you are aware that what you're thinking isn't right, that your brain is lying to you. It's still hard because it's so familiar. It's so
Well,
familiar
for
to keep
you,
on
it's
doing the
the
same thing.
truth. You as the adult. So we have the separation in therapy where we say you have to stay grounded in your adult role, right? And to recognize that sometimes we get hijacked by our inner child. At least in hypnotherapy, we talk about this, that every time we react out of an old wound, we are
Mhm.
being literally hijacked by an inner child that still thinks that whatever threat was present in his or her life when he or she was little, it's still present now. So, in the beginning of my book, I talk about a scene, a moment that happened in my life where I was late for a plane and I got really, really annoyed when I was asked to pay a lot of money for luggage, for extra luggage, because I
Yeah.
forgot to book it.
Yeah,
And
no one likes that.
yes, but I got really angry. And after a few minutes of ranting, I realized that actually I was not angry with the person who, of course, immediately I called stupid because stupidity has always been my pet peeve. This is stupid. Why are you stupidly putting all of this in the small print and blah, blah, blah. And then I had this break going, wait, I'm actually not really angry at her because she is not stupid. I did the booking. I packed my bag. The stupid one in this story is moi.
And you're frustrated at yourself.
Yes. So my external burst of anger directed at whoever wanted to hear was just a projection of my own
Mhm.
pain. So I had this epiphany on that trip where I realized, wow, the reason I really get very, very angry when someone around me does something stupid is because deep down, I hate feeling stupid myself. And in the moment that I see it in someone, or of course, in these moments when I do something stupid, that part of me, whenever she was born in my life,
Mm.
that feels stupid explodes.
I've always had this idea that it's hard to control the first thought, but
Mm.
you can control the second one.
That's right.
Where if you say that I'm really fucked up, I'm not good enough, no one loves me, you can be like, and it's just that immediate thought that happens. You can stop
That's the pattern.
yourself. Exactly.
That's the automation that the brain has practiced in thousands and tens of thousands
Yeah.
of instances where actually that part of you is trying to protect you from something. So the essence of my book is not to shut that voice up, is to embrace her or him and to say, that's okay. You don't need to protect me anymore. I'm good now. So to be in this position of what I call the queen or your knight in shining armor, which means that my philosophy is recognizing the value of that program. That program was designed as a masterful piece of engineering by your mind. It was designed to avoid me ever being in that position again. So it completely led me towards the life that I live right now. So now my reaction to I'm stupid is that's okay. Because I know that the next thing I do will be smart. I know that even though I recognize that there is a part of me who still feels a bit triggered by whatever silly moment that happens to be, or a big fuck up. I'm not saying that
Well,
it's only
yeah.
small things, but I know now that from those moments of so called failure, I'm actually being redirected towards something that is right for me. So I now reinterpret rejection or failure as redirection and reorientation of my life towards the things that matter. So essentially, this is what I do with people. Instead of trying to help them erase that pattern, which is actually pretty impossible,
Yeah.
is to reframe it and to update it. Because I see it, maybe I should have called myself a coder, because I essentially work at that level of the operating system of the brain. And actually, all therapy does it. It's just we have different coding
Different names for
languages,
it.
right?
Yes.
So my goal is to help people identify where there is the little virus, where there's the little error in the code that translates into I'm worthless, I'm stupid, I'm not lovable, and all of that. And to update that program and tell that inner child, hey, actually, that threat that you are reacting as if it's real is all in the past. And now we can make new choices. We, as in me, the adult, and the little child in my lap, we make informed choices with the tools that are available to us in adulthood.
So I have one last question. And going back to you work with couples, you work with men, a lot of those men come through the hypnotherapy side of the business of your practice. Men are really about results. It's like, if I'm going to spend the money and I'm going to take the time, I want to know what I'm going to get. So if a man does this kind of work, what are the results that he can expect from something like this?
I've noticed a lot of people who came to see me after doing years and years of therapy that they did not believe that things will change. Very often people say, I've been in therapy for 20 years, 25 years. But as a coach, I'm results oriented, right? So the part of me that has been trained in the coaching industry, I prefer to underpromise and overdeliver. So usually I don't tell people, come to see me until you get better. I give them a plan. I tell them, your situation, it sounds like we could deal with it in 5 sessions, or we could deal with this in 10 sessions if it's more profound or whatever. So I usually give them a plan. However, I've done better in the sense that I saw that this was still kind of open ended. Because, of course, I am a guide. I'm like a personal trainer in the gym. I don't lift the weights for you. You have to lift the emotional weight. And I can give you a million exercises, but if you don't do them and if you don't practice, it's the equivalent of you go to the gym, you do the exercise, and you come home and you stuff your face with chocolate. It's not gonna work. You're not gonna lose the weight, right? So not only do I give you the tools and clean up your kitchen and I tell you how to do the exercises, I'm here as your accountability partner and all of that. And yet it took a long time with people. A lot of people who are maybe struggling to erase these patterns or to correct, update the code would always go back to the old pattern because sometimes, especially when I was doing only coaching, we didn't get deep enough and we were still essentially giving them better coping mechanisms. I don't really like to work at that level because it's still superficial and I want to deliver real results. The masculine part of me just says, show me the results here. And I've actually created a system, a method that works in 5 steps. The method is called RESET, and the 5 steps is an acronym. Actually stands for recognition, erasure, somatic release, empowerment, and transformation. The result is transformation. Transformation means an awareness that comes from the recognition of the pattern, an updating of the pattern that comes in the erasure phase, where we go with hypnotherapy. We actually change the structure of the story to provide that perspective shift from the child's point of view that sees everything as a catastrophe and a terrible need to stay protected, to the adult's perspective that says, well, it's okay, I did something stupid and that's fine. So we have the recognition of the pattern. If you don't know what the code is, you cannot change the code. Erasure is the hypnotherapy part, deep core wound updating, essentially changing the story. The somatic release is actually recognizing that things are not just in the head. Basically, the body remembers all our traumatic experiences. And when we react, if we've ever had any sort of strong traumatic experience that has triggered even the slightest PTSD, even the slightest palpitation when you were exposed to the same stimuli, or maybe fear that came out of nowhere just because it happened to be the same as when, I don't know, you got bullied in childhood or something like that, that the body feels without the brain necessarily knowing what that fear, where that fear comes from. So we do a lot of somatic work to release the experience from the cells. But then it's not enough, right? We do it once, but this is a pattern that has been running in your brain for 20, 30, 40 years. So you cannot just do it once and then go and think that everything will be erased, right? So the empowerment phase really works with tools and strategies that allow you to essentially create a new pathway in your brain, because there is one already. It's almost like a vinyl disc that literally plays in the same grooves. We just change that. We say, here are a bunch of different ways you can deal with this problem. These are experiences or responses to this particular type of stimulus that allows you to test what's working for you. But I would say that once obviously we have the release, once we've changed the structure of the problem, or we modify the story in the brain, and we've empowered the person to pick a new groove in their disc, it's a matter of ongoing practice of coming back towards that new version of themselves or that response.
You have to make the group burn deeper
Exactly.
until you
It's
go down
only
that one.
practice. That's right. So essentially, it's a 5-step process that could be 5 sessions or more, right? So as I can promise that in 5 sessions, you will see a change. If you want quick results and we do the 5 sessions, you're already going to see a huge improvement. And then it's up to you to decide how much deeper you want to dig, because realistically, this work never ends.
I think that's probably why a lot of men shy away from therapy a little bit, because there's this idea that it's ongoing all the time. But with the system that you have, reset, there's 5 steps, 5 sessions, there's a timeline, there's specific things that people need to do as homework, I would imagine, and then you get results. And I think for the practical man, practical anyone, that's something that they can really get behind.
I think a lot of people feel that going to regular therapy lacks structure to some extent, and especially with men. I know that I've been very successful with men who came very disbelieving, who were pushed to come to sessions by their partner or just because they were going through a difficult thing. And then they were very resistant. And I know that when I mentioned, well, here's a structure, here's the exercises, here's the things that we're going to do together, and here's the commitment that you need to make, and you're going to leave here every week with homework and things that you must do if you want things to change, they immediately eased into, oh, now I know what I'm doing.
There's an end to it.
Yeah. Even though men don't like to read maps, they want to have an itinerary. So I see the reset as a map. But of course, the journey is a very individual and personal experience for each person.
And it sounds like what you're doing is results oriented as well. It's not about, let's just talk about our feelings until we can't talk anymore.
Men tend to be resistant to therapy because they think it's ongoing and I'm going to have to commit to it and keep going. But men are also the people who go to the gym religiously every single day. So they understand that the body needs working. Actually, the body lives in the mind, not the mind is in the body, in my opinion. So just because you're working your muscles, it's also good to work the source of energy that goes into those muscles and also the emotional.
I think that's a great way to look at it, because I know a lot of guys, very standard routines: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at the gym, Thursday,
Chest
Friday
day, leg
running.
day.
We got to keep our mind good as well.
Look at it this way. If you had a broken ankle, what would you do?
I go to the doctor
Right.
and do what he tells me to do.
That's right. But if you have a relationship problem, you think, no, I cannot go. I'm stupid if I go and get help. Why? It's worse to have a broken relationship. The pain is worse. But the physical pain, we know that I cannot fix a broken ankle just by ignoring it. In fact, I'm making it worse. I struggle to understand why people refuse to do work in this area, and a lot of them do, because they think it's shameful. Even though we know there is nothing shameful about having relationship problems, we still think that there's something wrong with us when we can't get it right.
That was Ask an Expert with Valentina Tudose. Thank you so much. She is what is it again?
An emotional patterns architect.
Emotional patterns architect and the author of the Reset Method. So the creator of the Reset Method. And where can people find you?
At happyeverafter.asia. And on Amazon, buying my new book, Your Knight in Shining Armor: How to Become Your Own Champion.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Everyone, go out, get the book, and get your relationships better. Thanks.